and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to kick off tonight's event by introducing a man that needs no introduction. The best looking part of a family legacy. A University of Oregon Hall of Fame quarterback. It's Captain Comeback, the Piano Man, Joey the General. Ladies and gentlemen, one of Eugene's most hallowed sons, the College of Education, Tracktown USA, and Friends of the Children proudly welcome number 3, Joey Harrington!
Joey, with that, if we can pass the mic to you to give us a framing of tonight's event, that would be great, and then we'll move on to Rhonda and our panelists and have a good conversation here tonight.
Matt, was that you?
Yes, sir.
Oh, great. Sorry, are we we're rolling, huh?
We're rolling.
Fantastic. I didn't hear you there for a minute. So I'm not. My name's Joey Harrington, former Duck. Actually, always a Duck, former football player. And I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be here with Rhonda Denise from the College of Education. I'm excited to be here with some of the current players. And I'm excited. I'm proud that all of you guys have made time for this conversation. Especially in the middle of everything that's going on with the start of the football season and everything with COVID, it's still important that we have this conversation. And it's interesting, and it's for us as athletes, everything has been about hard work. And if you do the right things and you do them the right way, then you are going to be rewarded. It's perseverance, it's skill, it's like I said, it's hard work. And if you do those things, then everybody is going to have the same opportunity to achieve your goals. But the reality is that while that happens on the football field, in life, that isn't necessarily the same for everybody. And I've written them down here just so they don't get them wrong. So please forgive me for reading off a paper here. But in our public education system, Black and brown kids are 3 times more likely to be suspended, even when their behavior is similar to that of their peers. Under our justice system, Black drivers are 2 times as likely to be pulled over, 4 times as likely to be searched, and 2.5 times more likely to be shot by the police, even though, statistically speaking, Black people are less likely to be found with contraband than white people. In our economic system, Black and brown people are offered, they are offered less job opportunities when their credentials and experiences are the same as that of their white counterparts. They have less access to loans. They have less access to home ownership. And at the end, a net worth that is 10 times less than their white counterparts. These are issues. These are real issues that have come to light for many of us over the last 9 months. My own personal experience in putting this into context is the feeling and understanding the privilege that I come from, in that I have two small boys. I have a 6th grader and a 3rd grader. And I don't have to worry that Jack and Emmett are not going to come home from the park. I don't have to worry in the same way that Black parents do about their children, because we live in a community that is built to help my boys, that it's built to help Jack and Emmett to achieve those things. And for so many of my former teammates, my friends, my neighbors, that isn't the situation. And so I think the fact that we can sit down and have this conversation is incredibly important. I think that there are a lot of people who want to learn and want to listen. And so I just thank all of the players who've taken the time. And Rhonda, thank you for taking your time so that we can have that conversation because it is important. And with that, I'll turn it over to Rhonda Neese from the University of Oregon School of Education.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you for that introduction and that great framing of what we're here to discuss. And you're not off the hook yet. I'm going to come back to you for our first two questions of the night, right before we meet our panelists. But first, I'd like to similarly acknowledge that 2020 in particular has been an incredibly trying year, to say the least. We're in the midst of a global pandemic, a very, very contentious election season. We've had wildfires up and down the coast. And Joey, as you shared, there's a growing recognition that so many of our institutions, including education and criminal justice, disadvantage our Black and Brown brothers and sisters. So it's important for me to note that our panel of players and coaches tonight are mostly Black men living here in Eugene, Oregon during a very difficult time in our nation's history, while also balancing academic and career and family obligations. These are talented and thoughtful and resilient men who are also human beings. So we're excited to find out how they're doing in a forum that we've never really had before. I personally have not had this opportunity to sit down with players and coaches and talk about these critical issues. We're also excited, and this is important for me to note, that we have a group joining us on the webinar that can ask questions during tonight's event and a larger group participating in our live stream. So if you are involved in the webinar and have questions for our panelists, please write them in at any point using the Q&A button. And if we can fit your questions in, we'll bring you on screen to ask it. And if we don't get to your questions, we'll have some time after the formal event wraps up at 6:30 to answer the questions there. So Joey, back to you. You and your family's foundation invests in students, providing need-based scholarships and mentorship opportunities to our next generation of leaders. And you've also helped to bring Friends of the Children to Eugene, which is an organization we'll hear a little bit about later. What about your career and life experiences have led you to focus your time and energy on these topics?
You know, I think, first of all, I recognize how lucky I am. You know, in a lot of ways, I hit the lottery. I mean, I hit the lottery the day I was drafted. I hit the lottery when I was born to two wonderful parents in Northeast Portland who are still married, who have been able to support me financially, you know, in terms of providing a stable place for us to grow and learn. I mean, that is not the case for everybody. And the more experiences that I had, the more I learned that. And so when I was done playing in the NFL, I knew that wasn't the end. That was never the end all be all for me. I knew that I had to somehow give back. And it just made sense to me that, especially being people recognize me as a quarterback from the University of Oregon, and a quarterback is a position of leadership, and recognizing that I wouldn't have had those opportunities had certain doors not been open for me. And so when I came back to Portland to run my foundation, that was just a logical transition for me to say, look, the focus of our foundation is going to be helping to open those doors for the students that do incredible work, that like I talked about at the beginning, who do all the hard work, who have put in the sweat equity, have put in the time, have overcome the obstacles, but they don't necessarily have the access to be able to walk through that next door. So the purpose of our scholarship program at the foundation is to find those students who are leaders in their community. But you know what? They may have gotten a C in their high school English class because maybe they were working a part-time job after school to help help the family make ends meet, or maybe they live in a rural community and simply don't have access to the type of programs that their counterparts do in urban settings. Our goal is to find those students who have put in an incredible amount of work and reward, but didn't necessarily check the box on the metrics, right? They didn't get a perfect SAT score. They weren't a 4-point student. So therefore they're excluded from so many of these great scholarship programs, and they miss out on that. They miss out on having somebody open a door for them. So what I did is I put together a group of mentors to find or to help these students. We go around. Our program is open to every graduating high school senior in the state of Oregon. And like I said, I don't care what your test scores are. I don't care what your grades are. Are they good? Cool. That shows me that you work. But what I'm looking for is, what have you done in your community? How have you volunteered? What type of leadership have you taken? How have you shown that? How have you helped somebody else? And so then once we find those students, we pair them up with mentors in our community who can open those doors for them, who can give them a little advice, who can say, hey, this is what you might want to be thinking about when you fill out your application, or hey, I can make a call for you and just put your name. Hey, just give a heads up, because those are the type of things that so many students, so many minority students don't have. They don't have somebody to pick up a phone and say, I'm going to make a call to the person who's hiring for this job and put in a good word for you. They don't have somebody to show them the way. And oftentimes they're penalized because they have to work a little bit harder to get back to that starting place. So our goal at the foundation, and I knew it was going to be I don't want to say my life work, but I'm going to be spending a lot more time doing this than I was playing football. But at the foundation, we give community leadership-based scholarships to students who need it, and we connect them with mentors in their community to help them further their goals and give them that launch into their career. Because these are students that have worked hard and deserve it, and they don't deserve it just because they deserve an opportunity because they've worked hard, not because their mom or their dad know the right people and can afford to open that door for them.
That's right. That your work and the work of your foundation are so critical. And we're going to hear from our players later about mentorship that they've received and the people who have made that difference in their life. And so I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much for participating tonight. And honestly, your leadership and involvement is a true gift to our community and to our students. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And so now to our panel of players and coaches. I am honored to welcome Jordan Scott, Cam McCormick, Verone McKinley III, Cyrus Habibi Likio, Tyler Show, head coach of UO Track and Field, Robert Johnson, and UO Football's Director of Player Development, DeVell Winters. Thank you all for joining this conversation tonight. And I believe that they are going to be brought in just a moment. There we go. Awesome. Now I see most of you popping in on screen. Perfect. There we go. All right. So to start us off, gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for being here and for participating. I'd like to come to each of you and gain a better understanding of where you're from, how you landed at the U of O, and one thing that's been really strange or different about how you've needed to approach this season in comparison to other years. So we'll go around and each of you have a turn to share. And why don't we go in the order that I introduced you? So Jordan, let's start with you.
What's up, guys? I'm Jordan Scott. I'm 21. I'm a senior in football, and I'm from Florida. I think the biggest challenge preparing for this season was basically like the training on your own during the uncertainty of if we were having a season or not. Because at one point there was no hope of a season, and then they send us all home, and then we start seeing all these tweets about how the season's going to return, but nobody's giving us a date or nothing. So like it's basically like working out, hoping that there's a season, staying at home, staying fit, staying eating right, trying to keep your mental right, because it can be stressful as a student athlete. You got school and being home and trying to deal with home life, school life, and wondering if there's going to be a season. So I think the biggest thing I did was lean on my family during that time, and I spent a lot of time with my family, and I think that's pretty much how I got through and got prepared for this season.
Thanks, Jordan. And Cam, let's come to you next.
All right, I'm Cam McCormick. Originally from Phoenix, Arizona. Moved to Bend, Oregon to go to high school. I'm a senior, and I think the hardest part about this whole quarantine and everything was just staying focused in isolation. Kind of what Jordan has said. It was just hard on your mental because you didn't really know when the season was going to happen, and kind of just having to stay prepared for when the time does come. So obviously keeping your body in shape and everything. Just trying to train. Training was definitely hard because you didn't really have the workout equipment that you would have if you were at the school. So just piggybacking on what he said, I think that it was just tough staying focused in isolation.
Definitely. And Verone, I believe you're next.
What's up? I'm Verone McKinley III. I'm from Dallas, Texas. 21. I'll be a redshirt sophomore. So for me, I would say just staying positive was kind of one of the hardest things throughout all of this. We really didn't know what was going to happen and what was going to be the outcome. And so just trying to stay positive throughout those times. We didn't know, and just trying to say we really might not have a season. We might not see some of the same guys on the team again. Some of those relationships and bonds may not be the same just because it's been so long. So it was just good to, get back and be with everybody again. But I would say that was probably the hardest thing, was staying positive.
I can relate. Cyrus, let's go to you.
What's good, you guys? My name is Cyrus Habibi Likio. I play running back. I'm number 33. I'm also 21 years old. I'm from the Bay Area, California. Really, the hardest thing for me with the uncertainty of the season really was I was fortunate enough to have access to some gyms and all that. So for me, really was just the time with my teammates and bonding. That was something that was really just challenging for me because I know how much that translates on the field and how special that is. I wasn't able to hit one of these guys up or somebody on the team and be like, hey, let's go hit the river, let's go float, or, let's go play some golf. Just something as simple as that. Just because of COVID and all that, that was something that was challenging for me. Was just the lack of time with my teammates to build bonds.
Thank you, Cyrus. Tyler.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tyler Shuck. I'm a redshirt sophomore, 21 years old as well. I'm from Chandler, Arizona. And I'd have to piggyback off what Cyrus said and that dealing with my relationship with my teammates and trying to develop myself into my role as a player, friend, and leader for my group and my teammates. And I think just only really communicating through text and phone call, because we had 3 or 4 months where we should be working together, throwing routes, doing school, working out, everything that we should be doing on our own. And it was really tough because I think there's a lot of moments where you think, like Jordan says, we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So you're just going to have to find that goal right ahead of you that you can make week by week, day by day to stay positive in what you're doing. Another thing would be school. I know everyone's going through that, and even the regular students, is that you have to find motivation to get on that Zoom call and stay locked in, because it's obviously harder to learn online than it is in person for a lot of people. So I think to try and keep your grades up and do everything that you can along with football was definitely difficult. So I'm thankful we're at this point now and thankful to be talking to you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. We are having some technical issues bringing Coach Rob Johnson in. So, Coach Winters, you're up.
All right, my name is DeVell, Coach. No one calls me Coach, but my name is DeVell Winters. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, originally. I'm 31 years old. So I'm in charge of player development. So basically that's just making sure the guys are, all these guys are coming from all over parts of the country, even a player from Australia, players from Canada, making sure that everyone feels safe and comfortable. The hardest part of getting ready for this season for me was, first of all, not knowing where some of these guys were at or knowing what they were doing. We have some players who grew up in some of those areas that aren't set up for their success, some of the systemic issues. And just not having them here in Eugene, which I think is a pretty good safe haven for all of our student athletes. I think there's a lot of fans and people who like to take care of them. So not knowing where these guys were, who they were hanging around, that was difficult for me. And also fielding all the phone calls from the parents, because each parent wants to be the first one to know what's going on. Are they going to have fans in the stands? When are they going to come back? Are we going to send more food home or sanitizing things? So that was probably the most difficult part. But once we got him back, I think it was better for a lot of their mental health and even mine. Just having something concrete, knowing that they were going to be in the same place, knowing that everyone was going to have a chance to eat and a safe place to be. So.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm grateful that you guys are all here. And I would like to go on to our next question. And this question is for Cyrus and Cam. So from a football point of view, what's been the hardest part of 2020 and what's been keeping you awake at night?
I'll start. I think the hardest part, so far is kind of piggybacking on what I said earlier was like having the lack of resources to work out with, just being at home. Like I didn't have a gym to work out in. So like I was obviously, in the garage trying to just find stuff to, keep myself in shape and, catch as many passes that I was able to catch with who I had available, because I wasn't, in Eugene with any of the quarterbacks. So that was definitely one of the big problems. And also just staying focused, because like you said, like Jordan said, we kept coming back and then it kept getting shut down. So like we had this thing in our head that was like, well, are we going to keep playing or are we just doing this for no reason? So I think those were kind of the two big challenges that I faced. But maybe Cyrus has something else.
Yeah, for sure. Really pretty much for me, like I mentioned earlier, I had some access to some gyms, but it really wasn't the same. Squatting by myself, it's not the same, or lifting by myself, it's not the same as having my teammates screaming, cheering for me, or, vice versa, doing the same for my teammates, or even Coach Feld yelling at me, screaming in my ear. So it's really not the same. And that was something that was pretty hard for me, is the training aspect. And one thing too, if this happened maybe a few years ago for me, just being an underclassman and being younger, I would be more worried about working out and all that. But as I've gotten older and matured and kind of established more of a leadership role, kind of piggybacking off what DeVell said, I really started getting worried about other guys on the team too. That was something that was huge for me, because like you said, there's some guys that, they're in downtown LA or in Detroit or places like that. And even guys who are, for example, in Lake Oswego, anybody really. It was just, for me, just not being able to be in Eugene with my guys was something that was hard for me. That was something that was keeping me up at night for sure. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm hearing how important the sense of community is amongst the players and the coaches, and the pain of being isolated is certainly elevated when you don't know what's happening with your friends and if they're safe and when you're going to see them again. And, like Cam, like you were saying, just this uncertainty of what's coming next has been something that we've all struggled with so much. Now, Verone and Jordan, I'm going to come to you guys with this next question. So when our university president, Mike Schill, made the announcement that football was coming back, he said, and I'm going to quote him accurately because I think he's watching, as we all face the challenges posed by COVID-19, continue to wrestle with the scourge of systemic racism in our society, and face an incredibly polarized national election. I believe that sport can help unite our community, be a boost in morale, and give us something to cheer for during some pretty dark days. So that to me speaks to the power and the influence that our sports communities can have on our society at large. What are your thoughts about the impact that sports can have on the well-being of our communities at such an unprecedented time?
Well, I think that our community and sports go hand in hand. You're always around different people from different backgrounds and guys that are all here for a common goal. And I feel like this nation is kind of the same way. We all have a common goal of making our nation the best nation possible, and we all kind of want the best for it. But there's always different opinions and things like that. But I feel like sports is one of those things where wherever you're at, that team in that community can really make the bond increase and make sure that everybody is really bought in on that team, because everybody wants to see success in their town or wherever they're at. So just here at Oregon, I feel, we have the support of our community, even when things were going on with the racism around the country and our presidency and all of that. People were allowed to speak their opinions on social media and be able to say what they want to with the community behind them, saying like, we stand with you, we support you, we're here to hear those stories and be somebody that you can listen to. So I think it's big.
I feel like, sports, like Verone said, sports and community go hand in hand. And from going to a couple sporting events outside of our football games, like going to basketball and a couple softball games, you meet people who you might not have met if you didn't go to those games. And sports allow a common ground for, people to have something to talk about and something to bring them together. So I think that, the season being played does allow that, but at the same time, we don't have no fans, so that kind of eliminates that aspect of the sport itself.
Well, you have us fans. We're just not physically there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, so we've seen some incredible leadership out of the sports world, recently, especially surrounding issues of race and policing, from Colin Kaepernick and his fight for social justice, to the Washington Mystics tribute to Jacob Blake, to protests across the International English Premier League. And athletes protesting is not a new thing, right? Like we have, these classic photos from the 1968 Olympics where Tommy Smith and John Carlos had taken the platform for track and field to make a stand. And I'm going to open this up to all of you. Why do you think we have and we see such strong protest leadership coming out of the world of sports?
I feel like we see it a lot more now because it's more acceptable in a way. Colin Kaepernick took a stand early on, and now that it's becoming to the forefront of our nation, I feel like a lot of athletes are more comfortable speaking out and speaking their opinion on the topics of everything going on. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Verona, just because everyone's passionate about what's going on right now, and everyone has a voice. And I think social media and players and people in position and people in power are using their voice to make an impact for people across the nation. So I think that's just been a great thing. And I know everyone this year has changed deep down on how they feel about a lot of subjects, and I really thought about, what can I do to help people around me, and what can I do to listen more, and what can I do to make sure that everyone else is heard.
For me, I think it's a lot of athletes want to be on the right side of history. They want to be the generation that said, okay, we've seen what happened in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and now they're like just fed up with it, and they want this to be the turning point. I think a lot of them are fine with damaging their legacy in athletics if it means for a better future for this country, for this world. So I believe that they've also made, they could retire today with the amount of money they've made, where if they lose endorsements and things like that, that's not the end all be all to their careers. They can still live the same lifestyle. And you've seen a lot of companies, even like Nike, who've backed people and not dropped them because of their stance on things. So I think with the support and the backing from those people who write their checks, I think that's also helped them move forward with using their voice, because the companies that they're making money for are supporting them And I don't think that was the same thing 40 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. And it's so interesting, I think, to sit back and watch and individuals who people look up to, right, across the country, across the globe, use their platform to advocate for the rights and the needs of community members. And to think that even people at the top, or what we see is at the top in their career in terms of fame and fortune and everything, have felt for so many years that they had to hold back, when we know so many other individuals who are not as fortunate have found themselves in a place where they felt like they could not share their voice. You know, to find that common ground and to see people actually using their platforms to make a difference has been so impactful. So on that note, we're going to queue up a clip from Doc Rivers, the head coach of the LA Clippers, from last month. And then after we watch it, I'm going to turn to you all for a question.
They're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung, we've been shot, and all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing to me why we keep loving this country and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad. Like, I should just be a coach. And it's so often reminded of my color. You know, it's just really sad. We got to do better.
I mean, his words just, I think for all of us, just move us and connect to something so real. And so this question is for all of you, and I'd love to hear from each of you. In light of Doc Rivers' comments, have you had experiences that make you feel unloved in this community because of the color of your skin? And what are some of the challenges that you, your family, or players you're close with have had to overcome to become the successes that you are?
As you refer to in this community, is it in the Oregon community or just in general?
Oregon community, I think Oregon community specifically, but you can share about in general as well. Feel free.
Y'all go ahead. I got to think about this one.
Okay.
I would say for me, it's and being a former athlete and never on the platform that these guys have, but you're known to be this one person on the field, but as soon as you walk away from that field, you're not wearing that number. You're not wearing that last name on the back. So you're just the next, colored person, or anyone. You don't have that name attached to it. They just look at you for your skin color and not all the write-ups that you've ever had, everything you've accomplished in your life. You're just the next person that they see, and they just try to take things into their own hands. So that can be a unwavering thing. Like you saw the guy jogging this summer. You don't know our stories. You just see the colors of our skin. You don't know what we've done or anything like that. And so people try to take things into their own hands. So as far as the Oregon community is concerned, in Eugene, no, but Portland is a little different. In the wake of things, people coming from out of state, having a dinner outside, and there was a rally. And again, people don't know your name. They don't know your story. They don't know your belief systems, how you've contributed to this world, to this community, but they just see the color of your skin. And that's a very bothering feeling when you're out in public, that they just don't care sometimes.
Others, what resonates with you when you hear Doc Rivers' words, or in terms of the challenges that you might have experienced or your family have?
I think what resonates with his words is the pain in his voice. I think that's really tough just to like just like listen to, because obviously like that's how a lot of us feel, but it's like not much is getting like changing about it, you know? So it's like it's painful to hear those words, and just kind of like what steps can we do to like change how we feel, like, because obviously no one wants to just live in fear of, you know, one day not getting back home. So I just, yeah.
Really, me being from the Bay Area, it's really a big melting pot when it comes to cultures and races. So I'm used to seeing um, pretty much every race on my way to school or anywhere on my typical day back home. But for me, coming to Eugene, it was a bit different. It was kind of a culture shock for me. Really, just I could feel eyes on me. I mean, it probably didn't help with the tattoos, or I shouldn't say it didn't help, but it probably stood out because with my tattoos, or I had gold grills in my mouth or something like that. And for me, that's when I kind of felt a sense of, I guess, being a little bit unloved. I just felt different. It was my first time really feeling different. Uh, Being here, because it's primarily Eugene, or Oregon's primarily a white community. Um, so that for me was kind of how I mentioned it. It was a culture shock, and it was difficult at first, but um, like DeVell said, we're not really in Eugene. At first, I kind of thought, that I was being judged, but as I've come to learn that it's more just I look different, and I live with that. And like DeVell said too, they know the color of our skin. Really they don't know my story. But really, just in the Eugene community, as I've talked to more people and met my neighbors, it maybe like 2 or 3 times it's been something negative, but the rest is very positive.
I can relate, Cyrus. We moved here from Washington, D.C. So to come from, a chocolate city to Eugene, Oregon, it was like moving to Mars. That's the best way to describe it. But you're right. It takes time to build that community. And there is so much fear and apprehension, especially if you haven't lived in a place or experience, if you're not white or haven't experienced living in a place that's predominantly white. It's strange. Others? We actually have a question. Oh, Verone, Tyler, I see you guys unmuting. Go ahead.
In Eugene, I mean, I haven't really felt like that as much. I mean, there's been a couple of times where you have eyes on you just because, whether that's an O on you or just because of the color of my skin, you might have eyes on you. But I mean, I feel like it's kind of like that everywhere. I don't feel like it's not anything unusual. I mean, I feel like it's one of those norms now. Like, everywhere you go, there's always somebody kind of looking at you different. That's just kind of how it is now. And I mean, that's something, of course, we would all want to change, but it's going to take time, of course, and that's just how it is. But in Eugene, I mean, I have nothing but positive thoughts for Eugene. I think it's a great place. We have a lot of support, and just especially through the times from the past few months, I feel like we've gotten a lot of support as well. So.
That's so good to hear. Tyler?
Yeah, I'm just picking off back off what Ron said is that I know I can't speak for myself individually in Eugene just because it is a predominantly white community, but I know, when Verone and I or a couple of guys and teammates were going shopping at Costco, or you're going out in public, you have a lot of eyes on myself and my teammates and friends just for no reason. And a lot of us, you get a kind of a stank eye. And even if DeVell and I are golfing, a lot of people are shocked that, like why is somebody like that out here? Or why is some young guys out there doing what we are? And it's really off-putting for sure. I just think to answer what his question was is, well, it went away. But I think it was what can the UO community do to better experiences for student athletes is just kind of raise awareness within your own family and communities. Because me personally, how I've changed my outlook on the things surrounding the U.S. is just talking to my teammates and getting their own perspective. And obviously I've done that way before that, just because I grew up in Arizona, which is also kind of like a melting pot, like Cyrus said in Phoenix. So I think just asking questions and then just getting to know your friends, family, and teammates has been the biggest development for me and my friends. So I'm really thankful for it. But I just think for leaders in the Eugene community, whoever's watching, just to lend out a helping hand and to always be willing to listen to others.
I'm so grateful that you shared that, and also that you're doing a better job moderating than I am, because there is a question in the Q&A box, and it is from President Mike Schill. Or it says Mike, so it might not be from President Mike Schill, but I'm just gonna guess. It says, how can the U of O better support you and your teammates in achieving your aspirations?
Really, to answer that question, in my opinion, really is really just showing love, spreading love. We don't have to be super happy and jolly and all that, but really it's just waking up with more positive thoughts. In general, as a person, I think spreading love is huge. I think the best thing you can give somebody is love and energy. And that goes for anybody in any race. So I think that's something in the Oregon community, which we do a great job already, but I feel like spreading love and energy is something you can't get enough of. You can't do it enough. You can always go a mile longer, take an inch more. So yeah, that's my opinion.
I think for athletes specifically, it's just when you see somebody out in public or you see them after a game, obviously not going to be this season because we have no fans, is just to talk to them like a regular human being. I think, the closest, when we develop relationships with people and how we get so close as teammates is because we treat each other like, for the people that we are, because we know each other and we treat each other like normal human beings. So sometimes if we're glorified out in the public or on social media, some guys might like that, but most probably don't, because, that's really not who they are. It's just their public persona. So I think treating people how you like to be treated, and obviously some Duck fans would obviously love to be glorified, but in the end of the day, we're people too. We'd love to just be called by just our first name, and then just ask how our day is going and stuff like that. So I think little things like that, and like Cyrus said, just spreading love and just treating everyone the same. And I think that's just the biggest thing, and how we respect others, and when we meet fans, students, or professors out on campus.
Yeah, you bring up a great point in that, you guys are young guys, you're college students, and yet because you have an enormous spotlight on you, there are expectations of you that may not be the expectations that, I experienced when I was in college, or most people do. People see you and they know who you are. And so they expect a different level of engagement, activism, maturity that is not something that you necessarily knew you signed up for when you fell in love with the sport of football, I'm assuming. And so, DeVell, I have a question for you. You work with these athletes every day. What do you see as really common challenges that many players face outside of their football lives, especially in that transition coming to college and having this bright spotlight on them and these expectations that they may not have been prepared for?
I would say understanding their influence. Each day when they walk around, and with social media, sometimes even myself, 10 years ago, just trying to be themselves, not being something that they see, on social media, or, coming from a mixed background. How do I fit into people of color? Even though I'm mixed, how do I fit in with people of color from the big city or from the South? Because I don't want to come across as being lame or corny or things like that. So I think a big thing with all these guys being big fish in a small pond back at home to now, we have a great sports. All 19 of our sports are really good. How do I find my place in this big pond when I was a big fish? You know what I mean? So even with Sabrina here and Justin and Troy and all those great athletes, I was the man or the woman back at home. How do I find my place, and what does that look like? And trying to really be my authentic self without being exposed or being made fun of and things like that. So I think that's a big challenge. Also, how do I become a leader in this space? I thought something with Tyler was great this summer is even though he's white, he wanted to be a part of the movement that was going on. But also he didn't want to come across as, corny, or I have no dog in this fight. How do I say what I want to say, have my friends back? Uh, Similar to, Cam and Cyrus, both, mixed backgrounds. Uh, we all have friends on both sides of the fence. How do we get those guys involved? How do we get our friends and family involved and understand that, there's good in the world, but there's just some bad stuff going on right now. So I think there was just so much thrown at these guys, these young people, even the freshmen that came in, going back to March. It's just new for everybody. And I think this generation is going to come through more resilient than past generations because of everything that was thrown at them, a pandemic, all this racism in 2020. I'm anxious to see what happens in the next 20 years, what that looks like.
I'm with you on that 100%. I always say, so I have 2 little boys who are actually playing flag football. Let me tell you, I get the experience that your mothers had when they are interested in a sport that I'm terrified of. But I look at these young people, you guys on this screen, and those who have taken to the street and have protested and have marched and have used their voices and their platforms in a way that is so mature and so profound. And I'm with you, Devel. Like, all I can hope is that this next generation is just better than us in every single way. And I look at my children and I think I just want them to be better than us, more compassionate, more thoughtful. Tyler, you going out and understanding the need for this movement, that's the true definition of what an ally is. And being able to use that platform. And it's not corny. It's like there are students that are looking to you, young people looking to you. And when they see you taking a stand, or I don't know if you do this, but like you tweeting out, like, make sure you're registered to vote, like that has an impact in a very different way than coming from somebody like me, and I'm so impressed and proud of you guys for using that platform, because that's a big responsibility to be a young man in college wanting to have that college experience, and then knowing that you also have this responsibility of behaving and acting and speaking in a certain way because people are watching you all the time. So Tyler, I have a question for you. So Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints took a lot of heat this spring for being critical of players taking a knee during the national anthem. And he later acknowledged that he missed the mark and even wrote a letter to Donald Trump, which included this statement. He said, "We must stop talking about the flag and shift our attention to the real issues of systemic racial injustice, economic oppression, police brutality, and judicial and prison reform." As a leader of this team, what do you think is critical to being a good teammate and dealing with issues like racial injustice that are bigger than football, but impact your friends, your teammates, your community so deeply?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that's just having constant dialogue with your teammates. Going off what I said before, is just listening. This whole year has been life-changing for me just because and I think everybody in this discussion and everyone on our team, we've been thrust into the spotlight to where we're having to have these uncomfortable conversations. And it's something that I really wanted to, and I want to do, and I want to get better at, is just listening to others and understanding where they're coming from. As a white man, I obviously don't experience some of the injustices and day-to-day feelings that my teammates have, and that just really upsets me, and that upset me for a while. But I just didn't really have the words to comprehend it. And I think listening to them and looking on social media and hearing everybody talk, it gives you the spotlight and the understanding of where people are coming from and what they're fighting for. And I think, and it's not really what DeVell said. I don't really try and see it as one side of the fence or the other. Is that we're all kind of in this together, and we're all, we're all one community. Obviously, we're amplified on the Eugene and Oregon level, but I think just fighting as a team and really just having a voice for the athlete community is really inspiring. Just because obviously we play football, but just talking with other people in other sports and getting to know what they're saying, and I can't tell you how many countless Zoom calls we've all been on together, and just hearing people's stories has been truly inspiring. So obviously Drew had to reel that back for something that he truly didn't understand. Obviously I don't know him or know a lot of people who have made these remarks, but I know he listened, he learned. I think that's what we all can do ourselves.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, I have a friend at the U of O. His name is Marcus Langford, and he talks about like the understanding of, injustices and what we need to do and how we need to act. It's a journey, right? Without a destination. We're all on this journey together. And I think Drew Brees is a perfect example of somebody who uses this as an opportunity to learn, like you said, and get better. We're all learning and we're all getting better. Nobody's the wokest woke of all the woke folk. I'm showing my age, guys. Don't quote me on that one. All right. So there are a lot of encouraging things that are happening right now, and creating greater equity in our community is a long-term effort. One thing that research suggests is critical to overcoming challenges is having a consistent, supportive figure in a child's life. So this is a question for each of you. Who is someone in your life that made a difference for you and helped you achieve the successes you've obtained?
For me, I would say my dad is probably that person. I talk to my dad pretty much every day, and just it's always been a grind just to achieve my goals, and him helping me since I can remember. And he's always been that person that I can talk to. Of course, we've had our back and forth before, just on different topics, but that's really my guy, and I love my dad a lot, and he's helped me with so much. I mean, I really can't just express how much he's done for me. So that's probably somebody that I just go to a lot, just with everything going on, no matter what it is.
I think a person that's taught me a lot is my mom and my grandma. Not really having a father figure, growing up, they kind of had to play both roles, and they've done a great job. I feel like, showing me the way, and how to honestly like treat people with respect and kind of do the right thing. So kind of like just I really appreciate them for that and love them for that.
I'd say my mom. I learned a lot of stuff from my mom and my grandma too. My mom and my grandma, two of the hardest working people I know in my life, and just watching them over the years as I was growing up, how hard they work, and both of them being in the medical field and working long hours, sometimes working doubles to make ends meet for the family. Uh, just being able to talk to them about anything growing up. I could talk to my father too, but I'm a mom's boy, so that's just what it is for me. Uh, but yeah, pretty much anytime I have something going on, the first person I call my mom or my grandma. So
Jordan, I have to say my children and my husband are watching this, but from a different room in the house. And one of my sons yesterday asked me if being a mama's boy is a bad thing. And I hope that he heard you, because I told him, no, that's the best thing. So I'm grateful for you giving credibility to all the mama's boys out there.
yeah, I love my mom, and I'm happy to be a mama's boy. You can't let your mom run your life, but it's a good balance. You got to keep the balance.
Shh, don't say that too loud.
Hey, the toughest boys are mama's boys too. Just throwing that in there.
Just keep saying it. Honestly, they're watching. Cyrus, what about you?
Yeah, really for me is actually more recent. Is my father, from a former gang leader and a gangbanger in and out of jail. He kind of changed his life around with his faith, his religion, and also now he's actually a police officer in Oakland, California. So for me, just seeing him change his life around, and being on, I guess, both sides of the fence of what DeVell was saying, really for me, just to be able to see change and how inspiring he is, and to be able to just really be day and night with his life, for me is huge. And I feel like I can really come to him for anything. And I feel like as an athlete too, I'm constantly changing, even wanting to be more than an athlete, with things I want to do in life. I feel like at this age, being in my early 20s, there's constant change, and life is going by super fast. So to be able to go to him and talk about anything is somebody to me who's that role model figure.
Yeah, to go off that, I think I would agree with everybody in saying I'm lucky enough to have both my mom and dad and have played a pivotal role in my life. But to go more recently is to not underestimate the power of my coaches and teachers who I've had in the past that I don't really discount at all. I don't think I'd be in the position I am without the countless mentors, little tidbits of all the coaches I've had and teachers have just given me some insights that I can use to better myself. The benefit of college is, or the only really thing in college has changed. We've all had different coaches, different administrators. But I think just the power of words and the power of what you can say to somebody else and can change a lot. So I just know I benefited greatly off of just my past coaches, my current coaches, and just the relationship that I've had with them has been tremendous. And as far as me athletically and obviously academically, just because that's the truly thing that matters right now.
Yeah, that's right. That's so inspiring. And just thank you guys for sharing about those people in your lives. So DeVal, Joey Harrington had mentioned Friends of the Children a little earlier, an organization that you help lead locally. Can you tell us a bit about Friends of the Children and what the organization does?
Yeah, so it's an organization I'm super passionate about. You can see some of the guys wearing the hats, the shirts. It's an organization that one of the coaches, Coach Keith Hayward, he talked to me about. He's like, listen, I really want to do this thing. I don't have a bunch of time, and neither do I. But he was like, you have more time than me, so I would like for you to get involved with this. And because a lot of what I do in my current job is what Friends of the Children do. So basically, this organization identifies kids from ages 4 to 6, and instead of it being a couple month commitment, it's actually a 12-year commitment. The mentor is a professional mentor that is trained not only to help the kids, but to help their families navigate through some of the systemic things that are going on. And we have a bunch of stats on, parents who've gone to jail and how that affects the kids and financial literacy. So this organization has been around for a while, and we're excited to bring it to Eugene and basically identify these young people that are in this community, them and their families, to help them navigate through the systemic anything, finances, racism, and with that, take a 12-year commitment to make sure that they are better in the next generation. Now, with that commitment, it does take some finances. So I want to make a little plug for anyone that would like to donate again to this cause. It's a great organization. If you text Friends 2020 to 707070, you can donate. Being a part of these kids' lives for that period of time is not cheap. Again, they spend 4 hours a week with these young people and their families to help educate them on life and give them a better chance and hopefully send them off to college. So it's something that we're super passionate about, Coach Hayward and I and everyone that's a part of the board and the community. And again, I think if they have this opportunity to work with a friend for that 12 years, it can eliminate a lot of the issues that we discussed today and help those young people make this world a better place.
I mean, it sounds like mentorship, whether it was across the players with their moms and dads, grandmas, coaches, community members, and what Joey had shared in the beginning, mentorship seems to be just this thread that's been critical for each person and their success. And so what can folks do if they're interested in supporting the organization?
Okay, as I mentioned before, you can shoot a simple text to Friends 2020 at 707070. And there's also a website. Let me go back and find that 1 second. Actually, I'm just going to type it in the chat, if that's okay.
Thanks, DeVal. Yeah.
I'm going to type it in the chat.
No, that sounds great. And you had a video to share.
I do. I believe that's coming from the College of Education.
Awesome.
Rhonda, would you like me to play that video now?
Yes, please. That would be great.
Hey guys, I really wish I could be there tonight. Sierra and I, Friends of the Children, you all mean the world to us, and I'm thankful that you guys have been able to inspire us in so many different ways. We started with Friends of the Children with Why Not You Foundation through Good Man Brand, and now we're doing so many other things together. And the time is now. The time is now to inspire and change our generation and change our world, and you all are a big part of that. So we're thankful for the Why Not You Foundation, to me and Sierra, to I know all those young kids and the kids to come. We love you guys. Donate, help out, whatever you can do. Thank you guys, Friends of the Children. See you, kiddos.
Devel, I really appreciate you sharing those resources with us. And I also appreciate that we've moved into this direction of like, what can folks do and how can they help and support young people within our communities across the various challenges that we've been discussing. Now, given all of the calamities of 2020 that we've been touching on and discussing, I would love to hear from each of you about what you're looking forward to for the next few months.
Me personally,
Go ahead, Jordan. Go ahead.
I'm just looking forward to the opportunity to play football this season. Pretty much like that's really all. Like I just with how the year started and with all the things that were uncertain, and now that we have an opportunity to play, I'm just looking forward to being able to go out there with my brothers and do what we worked so hard for since our whole lives, really. But since we've been together in Eugene.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to finish the year strong and win some football games, just because, like Jordan was saying, we've been working this whole year just for this season, and football is a strange sport. You know, we work 9-10 months for 12 games in a little amount of time, and now it's shortened down to 6 or 7. So I know a lot of us are anxious for it. We've been prepared for it, but honestly, we still got a lot of work to do. Still trying to finish this year strong, well in school. But I think we're just all thankful for the opportunity that we have going forward. And honestly, it's been really hard just because, you know, we are getting tested every day. So we have to make sure that we can't really see anybody else outside, and we're kind of in our own little bubble, doing the best that we can. So it's been trying, but we're looking just to finish strong.
I mean, it's hard to piggyback, but as we're all looking forward to the opportunity we got. We're excited. We're making sure we take the proper steps and following the protocol, but just another opportunity to go out there and, you know, do what we do and do what we've been working for. We want to do well academically as well, but of course, what we've been working so hard for and what we waited for was an opportunity, and we got it. So we just want to make the most out of it.
What I'm looking forward to the most really is I'll talk about from a football standpoint, but just as a nation too. Hopefully we could close on a positive note. I know 2020 has been pretty rough, from celebrity deaths to COVID to everything. So really that's what I'm looking forward to. From a football standpoint, is just to compete, go out there and just play the game we love, play football. I hope, especially for this community as well, coming together as a football team and competing, I hope that that's something that's positive for this nation and for this community. Really, and the chance to compete for a national championship and bring hardware home. So yeah.
I think I'm excited just to get back out there with the team. It's been a couple rough years for me with injuries, but I've just been working hard to just get back out there with the guys because that's what I love doing. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Now, in terms of the balance that you guys are all carrying with your football responsibilities, with classes, with following the news, with checking in on your family and friends, outside of football, what are some of the things that you do to take care of your mental health, to take care of your well-being? Because it's awesome that you guys have this opportunity to kind of bubble up, because the isolation for so many people has been so trying. So what are some of the things that you guys are doing to take care of your well-being and mental health?
I would just say talking to God. I think everyone in this group chat right now, everyone on the Zoom, I've seen at Bible studies and at least talking and having a one-on-one relationship with them and just rooted in faith. I think, it's hard to rely on other people who aren't really close to you and other than your family and friends. So I think just developing a relationship with the Lord and doing what we can to better ourselves. I think, I know me personally, it's been a life-changing year just to really become more independent and trying to work on myself. So I know I've been leaning on my guys and just developing a relationship with them and the Lord. And Josh Bidwell has been a great foundation for us in doing that, and our team chaplain. But mental health is a serious issue, and I know it is here in Oregon. I think that should be talked about more, at least on a student athlete perspective, because a lot of us were in the dark for a long time, and it's hard to find a way out. And it's hard to stay rooted in faith as well. Nothing's easy when it comes to that. So I know they can talk about it more, but I think that's just been the biggest thing.
I would say for my mental health is helping other people. That's why I got into this job. That's why I'm super passionate about Friends of the Children is, making sure that other people are in a good space. And I always tell people, you have to smile because other people are depending on it. You might not always feel the best, or, I know all these guys on here, it's like they go through so much personally, athletically, from a school standpoint. I'm like, you got to keep pushing through because other people are watching you. And you have to give them hope because with the platform these young people have, that if they have a bad day and someone who's looking up to them is having a bad day, they're going to be like, well, what am I even doing here? So they always have to be on because it's not just about them or us. There's other people that we all influence. So you have to make sure that you know your why and why you're here at the University of Oregon and what your purpose in life is.
I would say for me, piggyback on what Tyler said, just growing closer in my faith, and then as well as just building connections outside of football. I have aspirations to be a journalist and a commentator and a broadcaster. So just kind of building those connections, being way more active on my Twitter. I'm part of a elite media group, things like that. Just trying to get better off the field. I know I have those aspirations, and of course, football doesn't last forever. So for me, that's what I've been doing.
For my mental health, a thing that I love to do is just talk to family. Really just reach into the ground and reach back into my roots and talk to the village of people that I have back home, and they help me realize all the hard work I've done, how far I've come, and how far I have to go. That's something that really helps me. And then also just hobbies as well. I love to play video games and kind of just disconnect from the world and be on with my boys. And I like to shop too. So that's something that helps. So, yeah.
I love that. There's nothing wrong with relaxing and zoning out with the video games. I have a friend who said, for Black women, she thinks about ancestors, Black Americans, and how her ancestors weren't allowed to rest. That wasn't allowed. And so resting, taking a break, and taking care of your mental health, you do it to honor your family, to honor your ancestors, to honor those who could not do that. You do it for them and you do it for yourself. So there's nothing wrong with playing some video games. Cyrus. Cam, Jordan, what about you guys?
I would say just trying to remain positive. That's what I've tried to do for my mental health, because I've been through a lot. I know we don't really say it about football, but I've been through a lot with football, and every day is a new challenge for me. And I just try and get up every day and just be positive and think of positive things and spread positivity, because I know that if I'm negative, then that could affect my teammates, and and it can just carry on with everybody. So trying to just be positive and grateful for the day that I have, and waking up and just being able to experience this life. So just remain positive.
And Jordan had to step away for a moment, but we have a question that came in hey, hi, Jordan. Welcome back. We have a question that came in from Susan, and she says, we appreciate all of you so much. What would you say to a child who is inspired by you, who wants to be a football player at the U of O in 2030? What's one thing you can share that helped you get here?
2030? Sheesh.
Come on now. Come on now. You know how old my kids will be in 2030? 17. It's nothing.
Man.
I would say,
Oh,
I'll go ahead.
no, you got it. You got it.
I would just say, when adversity does hit, attack it with everything you have, because that's what I've done. And I feel like it says a lot about you as a person and as a character. So, no matter how far you get down, just keep digging away at it. And, eventually you will get to where you want to go, and you will see those strides that you have been, trying to make.
I would say just if you aspire to be an Oregon, the one thing I learned from football in general is it's a lot of things you can learn in football that compare directly to life. And one of the quotes I took from high school, one of my high school coaches, was, "The last play can't help or hurt you. It's all about the next play." So if you ever have any issue, anything ever pop up in your life, you deal with it, you get through it, and then it's about the next step, whatever it takes to get to the next goal, whatever it takes to get to the next step on track to those goals. And I really think personally, just staying focused on the task at hand, because sometimes as we get older and we start looking into the future and all of that, but not everything, not next year isn't promised and all of that. So I try to break stuff down into, not yearly, but maybe like month by month goals, like something small to start, just so because when you go big goals, it's hard to focus in on the things to get to that goal. So I think that the biggest thing about that is just, making goals that you can see happening every week or every month, or, whatever your timetable wants to be. But the best thing is to just, step by step and stay focused on those steps, and don't get too ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I would say basically play as much sports as you can and develop kind of that range of athleticism and just that range of work ethic at a young age, just because I know me personally playing baseball and basketball and track growing up was kind of the biggest thing for me at an athletic standpoint, just to develop myself, and it kind of just developed the basis of having fun. I think at a young age, you got to be in it for the right reasons. You got to have fun. I think that's the main reasons why we go out there and practice every single day, is that we love it and we have fun. I love throwing touchdowns over Verone's head every single day. It's like one of the best things I do.
I knew that was coming too.
Okay, Rome.
That's the best part is playing against each other. And me and Cyrus, we score a touchdown. We have a handshake after everything. So it's just like, whatever you do, how old you are, like, I don't care what it is. Like, you got to have fun doing it. And I think playing other sports and talking to other people has been the biggest thing. Is just, I've never been dissatisfied with any meeting or any like group or anything I showed up to that my mom or dad have made me showed up to it for a practice. If you're that kid, just go to as much things as you can, because I promise you're not going to be let down by it. You're always going to grow from it. So.
I would say make sure you're going to class. I have to tell these guys this all. Make sure you're
Yes.
going to class. Make sure your grades are on point. Get out there in the communities and do community service. I think all those things come in, like, on a serious note. I think doing all those things and going into college with that type of regiment is just going to make college that much easier. Making sure that you're out there in the community, and when coaches are looking at guys to take, it's like, they have equal skill sets. Who has the better character? We only got one spot, and I think that goes a long way in the decision.
Just to piggyback off that, you never know the lunch lady or any of that. You never know, because that's who the coaches go ask, is people who you think have the littlest, least important in the life, or like just little interactions with those people can go a long way. Not saying that you got to be all buddy buddy, but you know, things like that is part of the character that the girl's talking about.
Yeah,
Lunch ladies aren't the least important. They feed you. They feed the children, man. They are very important. No, but you're right. You are absolutely right. Go ahead, Tyler.
I was just gonna say, what he's saying is just to get to know everybody's names and to develop relationships with people at a junior high or high school level. Is that because he's completely right? And if you're trying to get recruited at a Division I level, they're going to talk to every single person in that building. How is he off the field? That's the one thing is, wherever you go, they're going to ask what your GPA is. How is he? How does he treat his teachers? It doesn't matter how good you play or how good your film is. It's like what kind of person is he, and how is he going to translate off the field? And I think that's one of the biggest things I'm thankful for DeVell for, is that he handles and he makes sure that, you know, we're dealing with the right guys, and he doesn't get a lot of credit for what goes on off the field. So I think he has probably one of the hardest jobs, at least in the program, and same with guys like with Neuer, other than the coaches, is that keeping people on track and is one of the hardest things to do. So if you can do that yourself and make sure you're tapped in with the right people and you're acknowledging those around you, especially at a high school level, that's probably the biggest thing you can do to set yourself apart.
That's right. And I'll help you out, Zavell. If any of these players are in any of my classes, I'll be sure to let you know if they show up. Mark my word.
Early is on time.
Well, I'm so grateful for this conversation, and I want to thank you guys for being here and for your leadership on and off the field. And I want to leave you with a thought, you know, because I am a teacher, so I can't help but take a moment with some students to connect about a thought that I often ponder, and it's this. Throughout your life, you're going to come across folks who might say to you that they're not very politically active, or they don't follow politics or world events, or they don't vote, or they don't get into that stuff. And I want you to consider that some individuals out there are not interested in changing a system that they have spent their whole life benefiting from, even if that system oppresses other people, okay? People will not change a system that they have spent their whole life benefiting from. So I encourage you to never forget that if you or your family or your community are not being served by the systems that we have in place in our country, whether it's healthcare or voting rights or what have you, you need to fight to change them. You need to be vocal, you need to advocate, you need to vote, and you need to encourage others to do the same, because you are leaders. Others are watching you, and I know that you know that, but you really are leaders, and you are the change we need in this world. So that's my, you know, if you were in my class, I would remind you of the power that you guys have. But I appreciate you, and I want to thank you all for being here, for being part of such a great conversation. I want to thank the College of Ed for hosting tonight's event, especially Adam Pritt, who came in over the weekend to run all of our technology, and Ivan Polk, who fixed my computer about an hour before we were supposed to go on. And DeVell, I want to thank you and Joey Harrington and Friends of the Children for the initiatives focused on increasing equity in our community. And for those watching in the live stream and that are participating and have shared their questions. The formal portion of our event is done, but panelists, if you're able to stick around, we may be able to answer a few questions if others have them that they didn't share in the live stream, but they might join us right after.
Can I make one more plug to make sure you donate, please? It's going to take a lot to make an impact on these young people and their families. So I know times are hard right now, but anything you have will help. Please donate. Thank you.
Thank you, DeVell. Thank you, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
No issue. Appreciate you guys.
Bless you. Best of luck for a great season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. We're done. You guys are great. I had fun.